Hi all. Whatever we have discussed in our previous video, we are going to work on the same thing in this video as well, but this is for the consumer thing. So on the same lines, we will see like what all classes we require when we want to create one Kafka consumer program. So in Kafka producer program, we first started with the properties. Why properties? Because the Kafka producer has to connect with some properties, right? In the same way, we here consumer also needs some properties. These properties are to be set in the Kafka consumer so that Kafka consumer can connect to the right properties. So we are going to create the properties object. This is our first step. And in properties object, what all we are going to set, the number one will be the bootstrap server, from which server it should read message from. It should have key value. The value will be our whatever the server will be. Then in producer we have used key serialization and value serialization. Here we will use deserializer, key deserializer and values deserializer. Next, what we need, in one of my video we have discussed about the consumer group. Like if we won't create any consumer group, Kafka will create automatically for us. And for scalability, for fault tolerance, for avoiding the load on one consumer, we need multiple consumers, and since all the multiple consumers belong to one application, so they should be referred to in one consumer group. So for all these reasons, we should need one consumer group. So we will be setting that property as well with the group ID as key, and we'll set the name of our consumer group. Then we have a concept of offset, auto offset reset config. I'm not sure if this is the right key name, but this is something. We have some values here, like suppose a producer has put these messages 0 1 2 3 in this partition. Producer has put some messages. Now if this offset, if we put as earliest means the consumer will read from the 0th, from the very earliest. And if we put this as latest, our consumer is going to read it from the latest message, in this case, which is 3. So these are the configurations that we normally do for creating our Kafka consumer. These are the basic configurations. Once the properties is set, then we have to like make one Kafka consumer instance. Consumer equals to new Kafka consumer, where we have to set all these properties. We will set all these properties in this Kafka consumer, and once that is set, like we have not described any topic from which topic it should read from. So this consumer which we have created, it has to subscribe to some topic, right? So here we will pass our topic name to which we want to read our message from. Once our consumer has subscribed to the topic, then consumer should need to poll all the messages. Now while calling the poll API, we have to pass some time, like how much time that our application needs to process the messages, so that time will be passed in the milliseconds, and it returns the consumer records object. It returns the consumer records object, which will have all the messages taken from the partition. Once once we get this consumer records, we will iterate that and print all our messages, whatever is present in this consumer record. So the fifth step will be print these. So these 5 steps we require to build our Kafka consumer. Number 1 is the properties. In properties, we should know our bootstrap server details, to which bootstrap server our Kafka consumer should consume from. Then, since everything is coming as in serialized way in the Kafka server, so we need to deserialize our key and value. Then there is group ID associated with every consumer, which is consumer group ID. We should create one for our consumers. Then this auto offset reset config, it will have whether we have to read it from the earliest index or from the latest index. Then after the creation of all the properties, we have to set these properties in something. So second step will be to create the Kafka consumer object and to set all the properties into this Kafka consumer object. Then this consumer object will have to subscribe to the topic, like to which topic it should read from. Once it has subscribed to the topic, now we will poll all the messages for that certain duration of the time. Once polling API is called, it will return the consumer records. Consumer records, as the name suggests, it will have all the records taken from the partition which producer has posted. So once we get the consumer records, we will print that records, and that's how we will print that record or process that record. So this is how the Kafka producer and consumer works in our Java application. From next video onwards, we are going to implement these codes into our IDE and see how does it behave. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.